Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I can see people are slowly joining us, so we're going to give them another few seconds. I'm super excited for today. We have a really inspiring agenda lined up this morning, and I'm going to be walking you through unlock growth, transform your business by crafting a strategy that actually works. Now, just while people are joining, just want to let you know we've run this event a number of times, and we found this the best way to run it. We've got a brilliant team at Applause Events on hand should you have any technical queries. So just drop any queries that you've got in the chat and they'll be able to help you with technical queries. Equally, if you're looking to run a webinar like this or something similar yourself, get in touch with them because they'll be able to help you with that too. Now, just to let you know, the only person who can see you is you, and any questions or queries that you have, and when you drop them in the chat, the only person who can see those is myself. So feel free to drop everything in the chat. That's on the bottom bar. You should be able to see that. So we're going to kick off now. What's been really interesting is the events that have unfolded last year. As I went into a number of organizations who either couldn't provide or just didn't really have a good business strategy, what I witnessed was wasted resource, frustration, and worse was failure. And what I want to do is I want to help businesses and leaders like you succeed. I love helping people. And if you haven't guessed already, I get a tad excited about business strategy. So setting business off on the right track, that's really what I'm off to do. Right. So what makes me different? So this is going to be a tiny bit about me. It's going to take about 20 seconds, but I just really wanted to let you know I'm not that stuffy consultant who tells you what to do from afar. I actually get things done and drive value, which in turn helps organizations like yours grow faster. And I do this through three ways: simplicity, velocity, and collaboration. Okay, so the simplicity bit is showing you how to unlock capability in ways, and I guess in some ways we'll be doing a little bit of that today. Velocity is whilst quality is really, really important, if we don't have any momentum, we just get left behind. So I'm going to challenge you today and think about what you could implement from today's session, either with me or with your team on your own. What my clients tend to feel is the ability to move at real pace, and they get results faster. And the collaboration, working together to find continuous solutions for long-term value. This isn't a one and done. Put simply, you'll feel the value. Now, what I also understand, and I know how you feel, and I know how you feel because I've been gathering these insights for a while now, and I've also got a couple of notes actually from some of the attendees, because actually a lot of you share the common themes, and I can completely resonate with that. And I've just written myself a few notes here. Current situation, the number one thing that people are concerned about in their current situation is unclear business direction. The second most important is being able to prioritize initiatives. And today we're going to cover some of those off. Everyone's top priority, pretty much without exception, was increased revenues followed by enhanced productivity. And the motivation for coming on today was practical tactics for growth and a better strategy. So you're in great company, because actually some of those insights I've gathered from those organizations over the years, and especially over the last few months, they've not had success creating a business strategy because of a lack of time and resources. They don't know what a good strategy looks like, or if they've created a strategy, it's overly complex and therefore difficult to define the goals. Lack of knowledge, fear of failure. And the latest one I had was with a team in London. They talked about going around in circles for months and months and months and not actually moving forward. And then individuals or businesses who have implemented a strategy and felt that it's failed, too slow to implement, didn't engage with the team and therefore didn't take them with them. The goals weren't clear and they didn't resource it well enough. They're the reasons that those business strategies failed. So, right, now we're ready to go. We're going to be talking about unlocking growth, transforming your business, and crafting a strategy that actually works. But before I start, I have a few house rules so that everyone can get the most out of this session. This is a safe environment. From my perspective, there are no wrong answers and there are no daft questions. So feel free just to pop any questions you've got in the chat. I won't read out your name unless you ask me to, so it will all remain anonymous. And to get the most out of it, I want you to participate, but no one's going to be made to feel uncomfortable. So any answers you give, digital or through the chat, will be anonymous, okay? Most important of all, I want you to feel inspired. I want you to have fun. Now, often what happens off the back of this, and I want to cover this off now, is I'm asked, what's next, Ben? Well, for anyone who's inspired by this presentation or aspects of what you hear today, you can just reach out to me directly, either in the chat, through LinkedIn, via my email, and just drop one-to-one in there, okay? You can just drop one-to-one in the chat, and that'll enable me to ask you a few questions on a one-to-one level, okay? To understand your current state analysis of your business and perhaps your ambitions as well, where you want to take it. And then I'll share a few ways in which I might be able to help you. Sound good? Okay, on to today. This isn't necessarily about new ideas, although I'm sure you'll come away with heaps of inspiration. It's about bringing structure to the ideas you already have and helping you move forward with pace. So what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about this bit in the middle. We've got your customer over here and your values over there. And it's the bit in the middle that we're going to focus on. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover. It's going to be about how we shape and empower your team, and they're the guiding principles. Okay, number two is all going to be about the forward focus vision. That's who and what the organization is, where it's going, how it's going to get there. And I know these are tough questions, right? So we're going to start with an ingredient that helps make enduring companies, which is your values. Number three, your truths. Why does your organization exist? And what is your organizational niche? Number four, always a big scary topic, 10-year target, 2035, 10-year target. So what do you want your organization to be 10 years from now? And we're going to frame it as so daring it feels impossible. Number five, one of my favorite bits, is the go-to-market strategy. So here we're going to be looking at target market, your three uniques, a proven process, that's a sales process, and your guarantee. Not a necessity, but we'll discuss that a little bit later on. And then another one of my favorites is the pressure test, okay? Really trying to understand why people won't buy from you. It's all very well understanding all the great things we have about our company, but actually why people won't buy from us, what is that? And then if we've got a little bit of time, we're going to cover regrets or a pre-mortem, and then we're going to move on to next steps. And those next steps are going to be decisions you've made today and the actions that you're going to take off the back of today. So without further ado, unusually, I'd like you to get your phones out. I'd like you to scan the QR code there, and that will allow you to put some anonymous answers in here. And the question I'm asking you is, what outcomes would you want from your strategy? What outcomes would you want from your strategy? So if you just scan the QR code, tap away, you can put multiple answers in as well. So feel free to put more than one answer. Revenue, brilliant. Cash flow, yeah. Super. Growth, yeah. That's brilliant. Clear steps to growth. That's really important. That's really, really interesting, that point. Really important. Direction, revenue growth engagement, sustainable growth. Interesting. That's a really, really interesting. Sustainability is really important. I can see a few more being tapped away, so we'll just let out fulfillment. Yeah, that's brilliant. Purpose of actions. Yes, definitely. Super. Risk awareness and mitigation. Yeah, that is really important, is how we mitigate risks. That's absolutely fantastic. So I think what's really interesting about what we have here is kind of the kind of overwhelming theme is around growth or sustainable growth, and ultimately the cash flow, the revenue, and all those things that come out of that. The steps to get there are those clear steps, the purpose of actions, and the direction we're looking to go with. And then out the back end is also being aware of the risks and mitigating those risks. So what's quite interesting is we've all come in from different areas. We've got people in B2B, we've got people in B2C, we've got people in football, we've got people in advertising, we've got people in PR, not-for-profit, we've got charity, we've got education, we've got data collection, we've got consultancies, and actually we're all going at this from the same path, which is really interesting, because the bottom line is a right strategy in place will affect all those things that you just discussed. It will give us greater clarity. We will become more profitable. Revenues will go up. We will become more efficient. The team will become more targeted. And generally, as a group, we will perform better. And the things that drop off, the things that we want to drop off anyway, is reduce costs, reducing waste, churn, and obviously client attrition as well. So we've all got a different perspective, but interestingly, we're all looking for the same or very, very, very similar answers. Okay, so guiding principles. Number one, the guiding principles. And this kind of touches on fulfillment. It kind of touches on some of the questions that came up in the pre-qualification when you signed up. And really, it's about making sure that we have a philosophy in our organization that everyone is an expert and they own their space. Because individuals won't get fulfillment unless you give them an opportunity to thrive. No, I'm not saying you give them the keys to the safe. What I am saying is if you give them an area to work around, then you give them the freedom to access that, then they will become more fulfilled and they will be working with you along that journey. A good strategy should also make prioritization and decision making loads easier, because if we've got clarity through our specific aims, then everyone understands where we're going and how we're going to get there. And actually, I've got a cracking case study from an organization later on in the presentation. And agility. The world is moving mega fast. So we have to have agility. So we don't need something that's overly complex. Now, this gentleman, who many of you may recognize, had a present forward strategy, or what I would class as a present forward strategy. And what's fascinating about Rick Steins is he created such an amazing business and still has an amazing business today. In fact, where he originally started operating from, the seaside town of Padstow, has been renamed, or nicknamed, should I say, Pad Steins, has a number of different restaurants, chip shops, now into the hotel business as well. But what's been really interesting about Rick Steins is when COVID hit, they hit a roadblock, like a lot of organizations did. And they were very close to going out of business. And what Rick Steins did as a brand is they created a home brand, a Rick Steins at home brand. They delivered restaurant quality food to your home. And they started with zero. They had no e-commerce platform, okay? And that was enabled to deliver to your home. They had no delivery mechanism up until that point. So they had what I call a present forward, which is accident happened, and then they created something off the back of that accident. Okay. What I want us to do is think forward. Okay. And what Rick Stein, as an entrepreneur, has done is absolutely fantastic. He's reacted, he's been agile to the situation, but actually he could have created and continued to create that part of his brand way before that. He just chose not to. But I want us to have a forward-focused vision. So this is number 2. So what's our objective? Why are we doing this? And we need to get everybody on the same page. So who and what is our organization? Where is it going? And how are we going to get there? And it's been well documented in many studies. And Peter Cowie, who you, myself, everybody on this webinar will be familiar with, maybe not the author's name, but books like Good to Great and Built to Last. He has established that enduring companies share one simple element: their values. Their values. Not only do they have them, but they also use them to measure things across the business. And I can see you sitting there going, why does this matter? You know, why do values matter? I'll tell you why values matter. They matter really simply because of this. Because a strong culture should be a guiding force. And I don't doubt for a minute that all of you go out today and find somebody with the skill set required to deliver what the thing is that you need or you don't have the resource to do at the moment. But what you want to look for is the individual or individuals who are prepared to row in the same direction that you guys are all going in. So now's the time to grab your pen and paper now, because this is your first part of your homework. Okay. What are your core values? Why? What is the way we do business? What's the way we select our people? So we need to be instructional. And often when we get to this point, it can be a bit tricky. So let's just drop it back a bit. Step 1. I want you to list 3 people, 2 or 1 or 2 in the organization, and 1 or 2 outside of the organization. And these people are going to lead you to market domination. Who are they? Who are these people? I'm going to have a little bit of a think, perhaps write them down. Now list the characteristics that they embody. Those people that you've written down, underneath them, I want you to list down the characteristics, the qualities that they exemplify. What do they do that puts them on your list? What are they doing that puts them on your list? And I want you to only write between 3 and 7 values for each person. Okay, I'm not going to stop. You've got the question now. You've got what needs to be done. 3 to 7. And by the way, 3 to 7 is going to keep coming up time and time again. So don't be surprised when I start talking about 3 to 7. There is a reason behind it, and it's very scientific. And step 2 of that process is this is how we're going to drag out the organizational values off this bit. Because now we're going to have somewhere between 9, so 3 for each of those 3 people, or 7, 21. So that's what we're going to have there. Okay, we're going to narrow down that combination that we've got. So whether you've written perfection or excellence or does the right thing or competitive, tenacious, self-improvement, professionalism, growth-orientated, whatever you put as your values under there, I want you to narrow that down now to your organizational values. And again, I want you to pick between 3 and 7 of those. So we've gone from a big list down to a really short list. And when we've got that list, I want you to back up that value with a story or an illustration of what we do. Okay. Now, that should be really exciting. But actually, sometimes it helps if we have a little bit of a nudge. So let's try and inspire each other now. Just pop down or name some of the values that are super important to you and or your organization, because this is going to help us all provide a bit more depth and it'll inspire us also. Again, get your phones out, scan the QR code. Let's inspire each other. Name some values that are important to you. Just name a few values that are important to you. I can see people typing, so that's great. So we'll just let these come through and I'll start reading them out. So entrepreneurial, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, integrity, yeah, love that. I love integrity. That's one of my values as well. Yeah, determined, entrepreneurial, yeah, 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 brave, yeah, yeah. See, some people are still typing as well. Authenticity, great. Confident, that's fantastic. Visionary, yeah. Responsible, attentive, nice. So what's fantastic there is quite quickly we can see how we're building up an absolutely huge list. Client focused, yeah, love that. All about the client, delivering for the client, because ultimately that's where our referrals will come from. Fantastic. So I think we've got some super values now. And again, you can pull on those, you can pull on your own, because on a few more: leader, yeah, team. Okay, excellent. These are absolutely superb. And what's really interesting, and the thing that we have to remember, for me, it is that people create the impact. And if we want to get more out of our existing resource, we need to understand where their natural energy lies. Where are they going to make the most impact? Now, I've been using a tool for the last few years called the GC Index, and it measures people's proclivities. And it's used by blue chip brands all over the world. In fact, over 5,000 organizations in 50 countries use this. Why do they use it? Because they know it's important to increase the impact of people within those organizations. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about this now, but if this is something that interests you, you just drop GC into the chat and I'll know to set up a one-to-one with you and explain how it can help you and your organization. Now, number 3, identifying your truths. Okay, what is your core focus? I want us to all avoid what I call magpie syndrome, which is we see the shiny over there and we go over there, and then we see the shiny over there and then we go over there. I want us to avoid being everything to everybody, because that doesn't help any part of our strategy whatsoever. And for me, a Chinese philosopher summed this up beautifully when he articulated, when you're trying to be everything to everybody, which is, he who chases 2 rabbits catches neither. Okay, so let's talk about how we start to chase down 1 rabbit. We start to do it by understanding what our truth is. So your next task is around, why does your organization exist? What is your purpose? What is your passion? What is your cause? What's the thing you're striving for? And again, you won't be surprised to hear there's some guide rails around how we're going to do this. We need to think about stating this in 3 to 7 words. A simple language. I want it to be big and bold. I want you to have that, that sort of a heart effect. It needs to come from the heart. It needs to involve everybody. Ideally, it needs to not be around money, and it needs to be bigger than a goal. Okay, and there are lots of different ways of articulating this. And I'm sure when you start to think about some of those guide rails, those stated in 3 to 7 words, simple and bold language, aha moments, okay, you will find quite quickly what it is your purpose, your cause, your passion is for you and your organization. Now, truth number 2 is about your organizational niche. So ultimately, this becomes a filtering mechanism to move forward. This becomes a filtering mechanism to move forward, because now we can start narrowing down. And again, we talked about unclear business direction. If we can understand these 2 truths, why does your organization exist, or what your organizational niche is, automatically we start narrowing down who we're actually talking to. It's a filtering mechanism for us to move forward. Simplification, and it's about hitting the sweet spot. Okay, right. Now we're going to move on to the big, scary 10-year target, 2035. Okay, we need to frame something so daring it feels impossible. It's a long-range direction somewhere over there that rivets our attention to the spot. Now, when I run facilitation sessions in the past, I've often been met with a wall of silence. So I've found a nice little tool for us to unhook this conversation and start the conversation rolling round the table. And the thing to get people talking is around a revenue target. What do we believe the revenue target could be at this stage for our business in 10 years' time? Where do we think we could get to? And I think what that does quite nicely is it gets everybody talking, because anyone can have an opinion on that. We want to be looking for passion, excitement, and energy, and we want to pull on that. And then we can row back to our 10-year target, framing something that's so daring it feels impossible. Remember, so daring it feels impossible. Riveting your attention to the spot, but also looking out for that North Star. So how far out do you want to look? You can go further than 10 years if you want, but 10 years typically normally feels about right. And then we're going to go from 10 years and we're going to drop that to a 3-year picture. So we've got our 10-year target, we've got our aspirational piece that we're looking for, and now we're going to try and paint a picture of the destination, not the obstacles. Really important that we focus on painting the picture, not the obstacles that are going to get in our way. Now I want you to think about the 3-year revenue. 3 years from now, what would the revenue look like? So we've got 10 years down to 3 years. And I want you to build on that. We need to agree on what it is, because numbers can't coexist, okay? So I want you to build on that. What is the profit number off the back of that? What are the measurables? How are we going to measure this? Is it going to be the number of clients? Is it going to be the number of products created? Is it going to be the number of partners onboarded? So lots and lots of little measures inside your business that help us drive towards that target. So we've gone 10 years, we've now gone 3 years, and now we're going to drop to the 1-year plan. Okay, so we're going to be working backwards from 10 to 3 to 1. Now, as we track back, okay, from 2035, okay, we're now in 1 year. So these 1-year plan that we're setting out now, actions can last a day or they can last 365 days, but they can't go over that. So those tasks have to be completed within that 1-year period. We have to be disciplined to do that, and it has to sit around our company objective. Because the idea is they're all driving us towards our objectives. And then as individuals, we need our quarterly rocks. Okay, we need those things where we can get action. So between 3 and 7, it comes up again, 3 and 7. Okay, with 3 and 7 actions per quarter per person. So if we're all going to walk out of here today with 3 actions, what are the 3 things that you're going to walk out of? What are the 3 things that you're going to walk away with? Okay, what is your team? What are the 3 to 7 things your team are going to do in the next quarter? Let's be really, really zeroed in on that. Now, one of my favorite bits is the go-to-market strategy. This is number 5, the go-to-market strategy. And this allows us to be laser focused on our efforts. And these are foundational. Okay, everything that we do in this bit is foundational, including sales. So we're going to look at target market. We're going to look at 3 uniques. We're going to look at proven process. That's the sales process. And we're going to touch on the guarantee as well. So we need to be rifled in our approach, because then we can zero in. If we've got a shotgun, we go too wide. We need to be rifled in. Okay, and we need to know whether people are right or not for our business. And the best articulation I've had of this recently is I've been working with a PLC who really, we try to focus our attention on this particular area. We have zeroed in on some specific characteristics in our targeting. There's a reduced waste, improved conversion rate, which ultimately has meant we've reduced even more waste. And guess what? Our profitability's gone up with less stress. Specifically, one of the things we did and we identified was actually we couldn't work with anybody who had less than 10,000 visits on their website per month. It's a very, very specific measure, but my goodness, it's made a massive difference to the business and about how we go about it. So they've really zeroed in on their target market. Now, the areas I like to break them down when we talk about who they are, what they are, where they are, is to think about 3 categories within our target market. Firmographics, if you're in a B2B world, or demographics, if you're in a B2C world. Firmographics for me, think about what are they? What is your ideal customer? Perhaps what their job title is. What's the size of the organization? Does it matter whether it's a charity, a limited company, or a PLC? What type of business? What type of business are they? Okay, and these are the things that we need to be thinking about when we're starting to talk about our customers. Where do they live? Where do they operate from? Are they just in English-speaking countries? That's the sort of thing we want to think about. And then we want to think about the geographic characteristics of your ideal customer. So where are they? So are you limited to just operating out of your town, or just the UK, or perhaps is it the British Isles, or is it just English-speaking countries, or is it the Americas, Europe? Really trying to understand where your market exists, and don't limit yourself just because you've always operated out of a county or out of a large area. What's stopping you from, if we think about our present forward strategy, what is stopping you, okay? What is stopping you from operating in another country? Don't put barriers in the way. Think about what we can do and where we can go with this. And the last one is psychographic characteristics, okay? Our ideal customers around who they are, how do they think, what do they need, what do they appreciate, what are the things that emotionally are driving them as people to make these decisions. And it's really important that we understand all of those things when we start talking about the psychographic characteristics of our ideal customer. These will create our referral lists. These will create all of the banks of people that we need to talk to. And then there are other strategies that we can spin off the back of that, such as a nearly client strategy as well, which I'm not going to focus on today, but is of real value to a lot of organizations and often something that's sort of left. The second part of this is our 3 uniques. So what makes you stand out? What are the 3 things that is unique to you and your organization, or 3 qualities that make your company unique? So start by listing everything that makes maybe your people, your company, or your product, or your service, right, unique about you. What matters to you? What matters to your customers? Okay, and those 3 unique should be unique to your organization. Nobody else should share all 3. They might share 1, potentially 2, but they shouldn't share all 3. And Southwest Airlines, I think, probably has some of the simplest articulation of that, which is low fares, on-time flights, and having fun. And if you haven't checked them out, go and check them out. They are an American company, but I think they articulate all of their values, and they live by those values really, really well. The third part, okay, the third part of our go-to-market is our sales process. And this is a proven process, and this is really important for the sales team or the team generating sales to capture and understand on a page what the document is, how a customer or client goes from here to here. How do they go from left to right? You won't be surprised to know that we're looking at 3 to 7 steps, okay? And customers will get peace of mind as well because they'll understand where they are on the journey. And you'll be able to generate results for your customers because you've got a proven process, okay, that you've called whatever you've decided to call it. Internally, it'll help your business because everybody understands what's expected when and what are the flags that we're looking out for, what are the objections we're looking out for. Almost like a go-to list of how a customer moves through the decision-making cycle. And name it, okay? And name it something better than your proven process. Name your sales process, whatever you're going to call it. Make sure it's simple, make sure everyone can see it. If there is detail that sits behind it, that's fine too, but make sure everyone can understand what the process is. And lastly, your guarantee. One of my favorite articulations of this guarantee, and it doesn't matter whether you like pizza or not, was in the early days, Domino's had a guarantee. And if we remember, if you can cast it, maybe if you're as old as me, if you can cast your mind back a number of years, one of the big pain points for ordering food over the phone or ordering a takeaway over the phone was how long we all had to wait for a delivery. And Domino's understood what the industry-wide problem was, and they found a solution. Because what they said was, in the early days, 30 minutes or your pizza's free. I mean, how good is that? Talk about overcoming a customer pain point. Absolutely fantastic. They understood the big frustration that we all had as customers, the worries, the fears when doing business, and they thought about a tangible penalty that if they didn't deliver, what would happen? And you can do the same. It's a guarantee. I'm often asked what my guarantee is. It's dead simple. 50% on completion, paid at the brand's absolute discretion, with presentation or on the presentation of the final deliverables. And that judgment is made by the individual who I'm working with, who will have been proactive in the project and will have raised promptly any quality concerns. And that's reassuring for my customers and my clients because they know I'm backing myself to deliver a great, great product for them. Now we're going to move on to number 6, the pressure test. Why won't a company buy from you? Why haven't all your clients given you all their work? Why are they not buying all of your products and all of your services? Okay, have a think about why do you think, or what may deter an organization from buying from you? Is it because you're one person and they're a couple of hundred and they're thinking there's a high risk inside that? We talked about risk mitigation, or someone flagged risk mitigation. That could be something that we need to focus on, okay? Equally, we need to understand why people aren't buying from us, because we've done all the great stuff about our organization. We've understood what's great, what our niche is, go-to-market strategy, who we're looking for. Now we need to overcome these objections, because these objections are things that you can put inside your sales process. And if you're B2C, you can cover them off at the point of in the customer journey, perhaps, or on the telephone. And equally, when you're in the sales process in a B2B world, you can have those objections lined up and you can cover them off before they become a problem. Right, let's help each other now. Why won't a company buy from you or an individual? And it doesn't matter. So start thinking about your organization and think of the reasons why people won't buy from you. And pop those in. So again, you need to get your phones out, grab your phone, scan the QR code. Why won't a company buy from you? Okay, have a little bit of a think about it. It's a bit more tricky, this one, to think about these ones. I can see new to market. Okay. New to market's really interesting, actually. I suspect, and from the research I've done, the majority of people may be new to market or may have a new business, and that's fine. But actually, you don't need to highlight that because I think you've probably been in business for a number of years. So actually, it's really, really important to understand that just because maybe you've got a new business doesn't mean that you're technically new to market. It might be a different badge over the door. So I wouldn't focus on the newness so much. I would think about all the experience and everything you've got behind your organization before we consider new to market. Great competitor. Okay, so we always talk about competitors and comparables. What I'd like you to think about is where can you score where they cannot? So if we think about a large organization, okay, really large organization, you're probably going to be more agile as a smaller organization. So what are the things that you can do that they won't do or they don't have the appetite to do? Undecided in what they want. Well, that's a consumer problem through and through. The one thing I can say is if people are undecided in what they want, let's try and understand what their problem is. Obviously, I don't know whether this is a B2B or a B2C problem, but if it's a B2B problem, some of the questions I ask at the qualification stage, which are the business objectives, understanding their current analysis and ambitions, helps me understand the problem that they're trying to solve. In the B2B world, in the B2C world, that's a little bit trickier. Okay. One thing I would say in the B2C world is typically the brand that gets remembered last gets bought. That's typically what happens, but I'm happy to discuss that outside of this. They don't know or understand our vision. That is really interesting. So this is around proposition. This is around understanding the proposition. And some of the dangers we have is we're too busy telling people what we do and not what outcomes we can give for our clients or our customers. So that could just be a language piece. And again, I think if you went through that go to market and understanding why people won't buy from you process, you'll start to uncover some of those objections and then you'll be able to turn those on your head. Or equally, feel free to reach out and we can have a subsequent conversation on that. Great competitors and struggle to differentiate. Again, let's find ways of differentiation because there are ways to differentiate. And it might be just about how we show up, how we turn up. And I think if you think about the tech sector, that's a really interesting space because really, the difference between Google phones and Android phones generally versus Apple is all around how Apple have created a lifestyle. Okay, they don't sell a device, they sell a lifestyle, and that's probably the best articulation of how a brand differentiates. But again, that's something I'm happy to discuss. Now, I did say I was going to pop up a case study. So this is based on a property company based on the South Coast, and the leader came to me with a challenge, which was they wanted to increase the tenant retention rate, which seems really, really, really simple, right? But the problem or the challenge that happened here is the founder got dead frustrated. And what happened were the results across the team, because the team was quite wide and spread over different regions, was getting mixed outcomes. And the reason behind that was because I didn't feel there wasn't a clear set goal. We didn't understand what was important to the customer, and we needed to understand what was important to the business leader, and we needed to bring those together. So we just turned that we are wanting to increase the talent retention rate on its head ever so slightly. And we re-articulated it. Increase the talent retention rate by 15% in the next 12 months by implementing a comprehensive tenant satisfaction program and proactive maintenance strategy. So what we did there was really simple. We looked at something specific, so that's the goal, clearly defining what needs to be improved, tenant retention rate. We made it measurable. That was our 15% target, if you remember, precisely something that we can track. Achievable, so realistic around what are our strategies of how we're going to achieve that. That was targeted strategies. We made it relevant because the tenant retention was crucial for reducing vacancy rates and maintaining a stable revenue inside the property management business. And then we made it time bound, if you remember, because we put 12 months. Now, what was fascinating off the back of that is the founder was unconsciously focusing in a way that he felt his team weren't delivering. And in fact, it was just the clarity around the vision that wasn't quite right, or the goal that we were trying to set. And what happened off the back of that was he became super pleased because everyone then started performing across the regions very similarly. Funnily enough, the tenants' retention rate improved, which was amazing, and the satisfaction of the tenants improved as well. So we dealt with the customer, we dealt with the founder, and we dealt with the team, and everybody became more fulfilled. And it was amazing, just that simple twist and slight change in the articulation of our objective that improved that. And it all started with the founder, and it all started with working with the founder. And it was my exec Sherpa program that solved that problem for this particular leader, because we created resilience in his environment, because I knew how he felt. You know, he needed someone to lean on, because it's quite lonely sometimes being a CEO at the top of a business. And I acted as a sounding board, as a commercial advisor, stood by them, and I helped him, build confidence, which can help you. And those who come on this program will build confidence, accelerate good decision making, and personally develop. And again, if this is something that interests you, you can just drop exec Sherpa into the chat, and I'll reach out to you after the event, or alternatively, again, you can reach out to me. Now, the pre-mortem. This was, I did say we were going to touch on this. So in 5 years' time, 5 years' time, what are we going to say we wish we did? I don't want to be sat in the pub in 5 years' time listening to somebody saying, well, I told you if we did, Let's do a pre-mortem, not a post-mortem. Let's ask this question now. Let's give feedback now rather than giving feedback after the event's happened. But this is a cracking question, and it really helps engage the team, because then everyone feels in a safe environment to answer this question. So really, really important to do this. And then look, this is where we should end up. We should end up with a strategy on a page. We can, our vision, core values, core focus, 10-year target, 3-year picture, go-to-market strategy, and the pressure test. This is where we should end up. This is where we should end up. And it's simple for everybody to understand. This is dead simple for everybody to understand. And this will help you succeed going forward. And now we really want to think about a critical question. How might you implement this into your business? How might you take this and implement this into your business? You can't help imagine something that's so simple. It creates ownership and it will create velocity. And I am mega excited to see how you get on. Now, I did say I'd answer a few questions, and I had one come in beforehand, which was around, how to convey this to leadership. So how do you convey a strategy to your leadership? So I have to make a couple of assumptions here. I have to assume that leadership at this point in time weren't engaged or aren't engaged in this process. But the way I would start is certainly by engaging the leadership team and understanding what their current challenges are, but also what their priorities are. And then I would make sure that forms part of my strategy so that they know and feel heard. I would also work out who the best person to be in the room is, but invite them into your strategy day if you're going to facilitate this yourself. Bring them into that conversation, because once you bring that individual into that conversation, what you'll find is you have a stakeholder at the leadership table, and they are more likely to be brought into that. So they would be the two things that I would suggest. Just had another question come in, which is, what is the most common problem or mistake that you see in business strategies? I wouldn't say there's one common problem. What I would say is there are some things that tend to happen, because the worst thing you can do is not have one. Not having one or spending a year creating one will create its own problems. So not having one gives you no direction, and taking a year to create one, by the time you've created it, it's probably out of date. So you're better crafting something that's really simple and getting the team along with you. So I would say there are multi-interdependencies on this. So gathering a team and making sure you've got a core team, make sure you've got them all around the table, because that's part of the alignment. But take them on the journey with you, take that team on the journey with you, as we did in this element. We've got some financial measures, we've got ways of measuring this in the process, and then making sure it's cascaded to the wider team. If people can understand not only what the wider business strategy is, but also understand in their role how that affects them, then that becomes a great strategy. So not doing one, not a great strategy. Taking too long to do one, not a great strategy. Or creating something so complex that nobody understands it is not a great strategy. They would be the three things that I would avoid. And the things that I would do to make sure that it works is align it, bring your team with you on the journey, make sure everyone's bought into it, and then understand how their role affects the overall business strategy. And that kind of touched on another question which we had, which was around how do we bring others on board? Well, for me, it's about often bringing different people into the strategy, so diversity of thinking into those strategy sessions. The other thing you need to be aware of, you would struggle to make something simple with teams of 20 people sat around a table. So often you're much better having a smaller team sat around the table because you become laser focused around that. And when we take people on the journey, they need to be supported too. They need to be supported too. So making sure you understand you're in constant communication with them. So hopefully that covers off that particular question. Oh, we just had another one come in, which is how often should we revisit our strategy? And when will you know if and when a strategy isn't working? Well, that's basically a strategy is a bit like, probably the best way to think about it is a bit like your garden, okay? If you mow your lawn, in the growing season, you can't leave it for another 12 months. It's something that's organic and it needs to be constantly looked at and constantly evolved because the world is moving fast. And we only have to look from, it was the end of sort of 22, 23 when AI really started hitting the headlines with ChatGPT. Really, that was a point where businesses should have recognized that and started to adapt. If we waited 12 months, we'd have been left behind in that particular curve. So we need to think about, when we look at that, it's a constant evolution. We said right at the start, we talked about the guiding principles. We need to be agile. We need to be prepared to change. We need to understand what our priorities are. So sometimes we need to realign. The case study touched on our measurable goals. Okay, so being really strict about how we measure stuff, because if we don't measure anything, ultimately we're directionless. We've got no way of understanding whether something's good, bad, or indifferent. So making sure you've got KPIs and really think about those KPIs as well, because often when I've gone into certain organizations, they're telling me, for instance, how great their social strategy is because they got 100 likes on a particular post, but actually can't show me that that has netted them any revenue anywhere along the line. Now, if they can measure those 100 likes to increasing revenue, then that starts to become a measurable KPI for me. We need to think about what the end game is. What is the thing that we're trying to achieve the back end of it? So hopefully that answers that. Feel free to drop any more. While I'm waiting for any more questions to come in, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who's come on today. I hope you found this inspirational. What I'd really appreciate, because again, nobody can see them, is if you could just take a moment now just to drop me a line, a testimonial perhaps of how you found this particular insight session around unlocking growth and building the strategy, because the power of your words means the world to me. And more importantly, if there's anything particular you wish I'd focused on, then that's important as well, because this helps me involve future sessions, which makes the insights richer for the next audience coming along and helps to inspire those. So feel free to drop me a note, testimonial, either DM me on LinkedIn or pop it in the chat now. That'll be really appreciated. I'm happy to hang around for for 5 or 10 more minutes if anyone else has got any questions, or equally, you can just book straight into my calendar and I'm more than happy to have a one-to-one for those who are interested in progressing any of the elements that we've discussed. Well, thank you all again. It looks like we're at the tail end of our questions. I know some people will still be tapping away, so I'm going to hold on for a while. Genuinely wish you all the best in success in whatever you choose to do, whatever the direction you decide to go in. Take these on board, develop them, tweak them, tune them, and please, please, please let me know how you've got on. Please let me know if you've hit any roadblocks or you need to overcome anything. More than happy to help. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody again for your time this morning. Thank you.